Hi guys, this is Maddie Harris, and this is episode 2 of the Outta Sector podcast. I was originally going to post this episode last week, and I recorded an episode, but some things changed within the last week that I felt like I should just re-record and do this a little differently. So I wrote everything out on what I'm going to say, just because I want to get the order of events right, and I don't want to stumble on how I tell a story. So today I'm going to talk about kind of how I got here and what my journey has looked like. A lot of people have not a lot of people, everybody has a different story on where they got to where they are, and I know mine looks different from my teammates, and I haven't really met someone with quite as similar as a story as mine, so I'm going to share it for you guys. I played softball. I lived softball. Everything I did before the age of 17 was to become a college softball player. When I was in elementary school, I was playing up divisions. When I was 9 and 10, I was playing 12U. When I was 12, I was playing 14U. When I was in middle school, I was playing with high schoolers. There comes a time when you can't play up anymore. I was in 8th grade. It was fall ball, and my team was full of high school girls. And in Missouri, high school softball season is during the fall. So I had to look elsewhere if I wanted to play that fall. I filled in for a team out of Iowa, and Iowa played high school softball in the summer, so I was able to fill in with their 18U and 16U teams that fall. This was my first experience playing with girls with goals and dreams as big as my own. Every one of those girls played hard, and they wanted to play college softball. They wanted to win, and that fall was extremely eye-opening for me. I finally joined a highly competitive travel ball team prior to the start of my sophomore year in high school. This team was based out of Kansas City area, but we had girls that lived 5, 6 hours away on the team. I was used to people who didn't want to make the 20-minute drive to practice, let alone a few hours. We had girls commuting an hour, 2 hours to practice during the week. My new teammates had big dreams, playing in the SEC, Power Five schools, becoming an All-American, winning championships. I was surrounded by individuals that wanted it. I now had coaches that knew how to get everything out of us. There were high expectations. We would be early, we would bring equipment, we would pick up and set up drills. The dugout would be spotless at the end of practice. You would give 100% effort on every rep. You would learn from your mistakes. I believe in all of these lessons have led me down the path that I am going on today. Softball taught me to be the person busting their ass on every detail of their life, and that hard work will get you rewarded, and it will pay off, and you'll end up reaching your goals. I decided to pursue college track at the start of my senior year of high school. I was a state champion, a runner-up, and a third place finisher at the time in javelin. My high school team had won state 3 years in a row, and I'd also finished 7th in the shot put at state. I was at the beginning of my track career, but I just had a taste of success at the state level, and I knew that I, I had a lot to learn, and I thought I could do well in track. So keep in mind, I was only practicing javelin for 3 months out of the year. I'd thrown 45 meters with awful technique. I believe my saving grace was probably I was strong. I had a strong arm. In softball, I was a catcher. I could throw hard, even from a young age. I remember one time I was playing catch with this girl, and she missed it. It might have been like coach pitch. She missed the ball. We were playing catch, and it hit her nose, and she broke her nose. I didn't mean to do that, but it happened. Um, so I don't know how I threw the javelin as far as I did. I'm thinking somehow whatever made me throw hard in softball made me heave a javelin. I had no idea that the javelin was supposed to be a pole. Um, I didn't know the throw was supposed to feel like a rubber band, like shooting off your fingers. But anyways, in September, in the middle of my senior year, of high school softball, I went on a official visit to the University of Nebraska. I immediately fell in love with the culture at Nebraska and just how much the fan base cared about sports. I went to a volleyball game on that Friday, and they had just won the NCAA championship the year before. So it was packed. The game was electric. I knew nothing about volleyball. This was the first time I'd ever watched a volleyball game in my life, and it happened to be a Nebraska game. And it was probably just like the craziest thing I've ever experienced because everyone was into it. They had these little chants for the different players when they were serving, and it was just really cool. I had a really good feeling leaving that game. The next day I went to a football game. The game was very memorable in my head and probably a lot of diehard Nebraska fans because we lost to Troy that day. I didn't stay long. I think I left before halftime. But I remember seeing the balloons being released, and that was amazing. It really sucks that that doesn't happen anymore. But I remember my host was like, we need to stay until we score. Hopefully we score. And we stayed until we scored and the balloons happened. And that was amazing. But when I got back home to Missouri, I knew that I was going to be a Cornhusker. So I committed and signed my NLI in November to go to Nebraska. So I was officially giving up on my original dream to be a college softball player. And you might ask, like, why? Like, why did I just decide that track was going to be a better choice for me? Well, at the time, I couldn't imagine playing college softball. Having 25 girls on a team, all competing for playing time, the stress of making a mistake while on the field, anxiety if I struck out, if I would be pulled. The game wasn't fun to me at the time. Javelin freed me of like anxiety and stress that softball was putting on me. When I was throwing, I knew the one person that was going to stop me from reaching my goals was myself. There'd be no bad calls, weird ground balls, lucky plays to blame if I were to fail. It was all on me. Javelin made me 100% responsible, and that made me feel weightless during training. And I was never scared or carried fear with me when I was throwing javelin or practicing and even just showing up. So let's fast forward to my freshman year of college. The first week was hard for me. I was there to go to school, learn how to throw javelin, get strong, and become the best version of myself in that way. And in high school, I was never big on social events. I didn't go to prom or homecoming. I didn't party. I hung out with my softball friends and went to practice. That was my life. Um, that first week in college, people were going out on the weekends. Going to parties, and I didn't want to do that. So I drove back to Lisa, Missouri on the weekends. I went back to Missouri almost every weekend my first semester of college. I didn't want to drink or be around a whole bunch of people that I didn't know. So adjusting there was really hard, and it kind of just like made me feel like an outcast. It felt weird and different. But I just had to keep reminding myself that I had this bigger goal for myself and I wasn't going to get there if I let other people affect the way that I was acting and just the way that I showed up every day. So in practice, we had 4 freshman javelin throwers and 2 upperclassmen. So that was interesting. So I tried to follow their leads, the upperclassmen. I asked them questions and try to keep up with whatever we were doing. Learning the new exercises and just how practice ran each day. That semester, I also learned what an athletic trainer was and started to begin the process of learning how to recover and how to take care of your body so, it didn't collapse upon itself. I started doing rehab exercises for my shoulder to make sure I was healthy enough to throw when the season came. remember this is my first time I've ever trained javelin all year round. So I'm just trying to do my best I can to like fully learn like how you're supposed to be a track athlete. I learned extra drills I could do on my own outside of practice that would help me. I was feeling ready to throw. And then COVID came. I still remember where I was. I was in the weight room at the Devaney when we found out our throws coach and a few of our teammates were at indoor nationals. I think it was in Albuquerque, and it was literally like the day they were supposed to, day before they were gonna throw. The meet was canceled. I remember after weights, I had thrown discus that day just for fun because we were like, well, we're going home. But anyways, we were supposed to be in Arizona in a few days. It was supposed to be a spring break training trip. Instead, I'd be heading back to Missouri to train and keep moving the needle, working towards my goals. But it was so unsure. We had no idea what was going on, and it's just like threw a loop in our plans. But honestly, I'm super lucky because I went home to Missouri. I had a training group. My high school coach trained about 5 people at the time. Most of them were people that I had gone to school with. So we would go to this private school in downtown Kansas City to practice where he had a connection. We'd practice Monday through Friday. We'd be out there for hours each day throwing. Um, it was great. Even when it was pouring down rain, it was probably some of the most like memorable practices that I've ever had and the most fun that I've had like when I have been practicing. I think the reason that it was just so fun and memorable is because everything was unsure and it was like our one opportunity to the day that I like knew that I was gonna go see people that I didn't live with. And I would get to talk to them and joke and just have fun. But I was also able to work out with a trainer close to my house. Their gym was located inside a church. So I'd lift at 6 in the morning and then throw around 3 in the afternoon. And about like halfway through that summer, I was able to get a job and work like in the middle of that time, like in between that time. And I was just really lucky that I was able to do those things. If I didn't have work and got bored in the middle of the day, I would go to a middle school, where I went to middle school and work out there and like do like hurdle drills and just like walk or like run around the track. I was extremely lucky to be in Missouri where the lockdown wasn't harsh and I was still able to live my life, you know? Um, when I returned to campus in August, things became obvious. Some people hadn't worked as hard as I did that summer. I noticed people probably didn't train at all. We started workouts and people just looked out of shape. During COVID, I wasn't thinking about how ahead I was putting myself by continuing to practice every day, but that fall I realized like all the extra work that I had put in was really gonna pay off. So that fall I would lift and practice with the team, but I'd also go do another training session on my own. And mostly this wasn't like anything too hard or strenuous. It was just like me learning some new drills and working technically on my throw and just trying to get some things down that I was learning. So by the time the season came, I knew I was ready. I knew I was ready to throw. My PR before was 45 meters. The first meet of the year, I threw 50-17. Having a personal best of over 5 meters, it was great. It was just like reassurance that what I was doing was working and just to keep like trusting the process, you know. At Big Tens, I threw 56.05, which was just 10 centimeters off the school record. And but at the time, I was just so happy. I qualified for Olympic trials. I won Big Tens. My coach was happy. My teammates were happy. It was like that was just super exciting. But also the week of Big Ten was super emotional. Most of the coaching staff at Nebraska was notified that they were not gonna be asked to come back next year. So, um, the whole team was facing some huge unknowns, and I just remember being unsure of, like, what my future was gonna look um, like, who my coach was gonna be at Nebraska, and, like, if they were gonna be able to help me reach the goals I had set for myself. Yeah, and so I was just in shock too. I threw a 5-meter PR, and um, I was just like, "Wow, what the heck?" So our regionals, I threw 52.85 to make it to nationals, and at that meet is when we found out, um, like, who was being hired as our throws coach. Um, so they announced. Oh, so at this moment, my mental game was completely thrown out the window heading into nationals. Um, I just found out who my new throws coach was going to be, and honestly, like, my brain was thinking like, okay, so how's my training gonna change, like, all this stuff, and I was really excited for these changes, but I was also just like, it was a big, change that was going to happen. So I was having a lot of emotions heading into nationals. Justin Sinclair was announced that, he would be the throws coach in Nebraska. He was at NDSU before, and NDSU would come to Nebraska for indoor meets, and his throwers scared the crap out of me. I was 19 years old and had never seen a group of throwers so intense and competitive. I used to be terrified of Maddie Millis, um, because the way she threw weight, she was so emotional while she was throwing, not in like a bad way. She was just like, she would scream at the ball, and she was just so happy. She would hype up her teammates. And I just remember being like, oh my God, she's so intense. Like, I bet she would beat me up. And now, like, I know her. She's one of our coaches, and it's amazing. But it was just so exciting that they were coming to Nebraska, and the biggest thing that was exciting for me was the fact that Coach Sinclair was a javelin thrower, and I just wanted to be a javelin thrower. My first 2 years at Nebraska, I threw shot put and weight and hammer as well. I ended up throwing like 14.51 in shot put, which wasn't much further than my high school PR, and 17.66 in weight throw. I was practicing hammer all the way up until Big Tens, even though I'd only thrown it once, the whole outdoor season. That whole season, I was only practicing javelin like twice a week with the javelin throwers. So yeah, and like looking back at it, I'm like, I was only practicing javelin twice a week. Like, I wonder how that season could have changed if I was practicing it full time. But looking back on it, I wouldn't change anything about it. So when coach came to Nebraska, I became a javelin thrower. Everything changed to my lifting practices, how I thought about throwing javelin. I was still searching for ways I could improve outside of practice, but I no longer felt like I had to try to figure out on my own. I had someone to ask stupid questions to that like had been around javelin for so many years and had coached so many successful throwers that I didn't feel like I had to go like on the interwebs to like find these answers for myself. Um, I 100% trusted whatever training he told me to do, trusted the program. Um, and it led me to a more consistent year. Another big personal best at conference, 57.90 to win Big Tens, and finally getting that school record that was just 10 centimeters off, and eventually runner up at nationals with a throw of 57.69, just half a meter behind first. And honestly, that nationals was kind of crazy. I had a lot of doubt filling my thoughts for nationals. The year before, I had choked completely. I threw 49 meters, and I remember the first time I ever talked to coach when he came to Nebraska. He congratulated me on the season, and I had a really hard time accepting this compliment because all I could think about was how much of a failure nationals was. Like I threw 49 meters and I just thrown 56 at Big Tens and then 52 at regionals. Like 49 meters was bad in my brain. I was so embarrassed about it. I rage quit social media my freshman year. I didn't re-download Instagram till right before the start of my sophomore year. And I didn't have Snapchat for 2 years. I deleted all the social media off my phone and like, just like gradually got it back. But I didn't have anything on my phone for like 6 months. So my first two throws at nationals that year were 48 meters. Um, I remember walking over to coach and I don't even know what he said to me, but like the tears were about to come. And I just remember his tone and it like snapped me out of this like dark place that I was heading towards in my brain. And I just remember him like talking about that I had the tools that I needed and he was confident in me. And I remember like walking away and I knew that I would be able to do this. I would be able to just let go of whatever was holding me back and like figure this crap out. So on my third throw, I went from probably like 22nd place to second place and through with the 57.69. Um, but after I threw 57 right there, my brain left the chat. Like brain was no longer there. During a time when I was needed to most, I was able to hold all together and compete. That moment gave me a lot of confidence heading into that next season because it just showed that I was able to like snap out of this bad place mentally and pick it up and figure my stuff out. So the 2023 season did not start the way I wanted to. I threw 51.87. I was expecting a lot more out of myself, especially since the last year I was able to um, finish well. But I let things out of my control get to me that first meet. And this is something that I would struggle with a lot this season, that season, a lack of control. And I would learn to let go of things that I can't control ultimately. So Texas Relays was the opener and it was a really good stacked competition. The start list was crazy good. I was super excited because there's a lot of people from nationals that were going to be there. It would just be good to like see them at the beginning of the season. And I never gotten that in the seasons prior. Um, the meet was we were supposed to start, I think, around noon, and we got delayed an hour. One thing about me is if we throw early, I have a really hard time eating breakfast. So I remember I had an 8 munch and we were getting delayed. So I was getting really like shaky and I needed to eat. So I was like eating and not even thinking about warming up at this time. I just got let a lot of things get to me that competition. And like picking up from that and like learning what I did wrong to prepare like that day, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna let this happen the next week. And the next week we were in Arizona, and that was the earliest that I'd thrown that well. Besides my first year when I threw 5 meter PR in the first meet, um, I threw 58.85 and I was stoked. The rest of the season, I was kind of frustrated because I don't know if this is just like me being like arrogant or something, but I thought I was gonna throw that far all year, but I ended up being very consistent. I threw 55, 56, 56, 57. So I knew that I was ready to throw far. The training leading up to USA's was simple because I just knew that I would throw farther than I had ever had before, and I was going to do it in July. After NCAAs, where I would have liked to throw in better, I was confident in myself and in my training. So when I threw 60 meters that first time at USA's, I was happy and I was ecstatic, but I was able to keep composed because I think it was on my third. I think it might have been on my fourth throw. at USA's that I threw 60, I was able to stay calm and not like lose my brain in that moment. And I think it was the next throw, I threw almost 60 meters again. I just fouled at the front of the line. And I just remember being so happy that I was able to stay composed in that meet after throwing 60 meters, which was a huge milestone, and able to like back it up with good throws. And that was probably like my most consistent series that I've ever had. Um, I've been known to have a really bad like warm up and then throw a lot further in the competition. So I was just really happy to see how my training has progressed and how my consistency has changed. And that was really big for me. But after I won USA's, that's when things got a little crazy. I ended up going to two meets in Canada, and I planned this out all by myself with the help of coach. But I like figured out hotel. Well, I guess the meet provided the hotels, but I figured out I was gonna get there and get back, and I was getting my javelins there and everything all by myself. And that was the first time I had traveled outside the country by myself and ever, like, flown by myself. I wasn't that nervous because it was just going to Canada and people in Canada speak English, so I wasn't, like, too, freaked out about that, but I was really nervous, just, like, traveling by myself. I was also really stressed because I knew I needed to throw far. So the whole reason I needed to go to Canada was to get my world ranking up. I won USA's, but I didn't have the standard to go to Budapest to compete at Worlds, and I didn't have the world ranking. So I needed to go to more meets to improve my world ranking. So I went to Harry Jerome in Canada, and I think I got third. I threw 55, like 90 something. Um, I knew that I still needed to throw farther, like, that wasn't going to jump my world ranking that much, like, it would help, but it wouldn't be what I needed, and I had another meet in Canada 2 days after that, so I had a day off, and that day included, like, traveling to the next meet in Canada, and I went to that meet, and I threw worse, I threw, like, 53 meters, I fell at the end of my throw, like, I hit a block, but it was a bad throw. So I hit the block and I, like, landed on my stomach. I did a flop, like a vetter flop, but it was super unathletic, and I literally peed my pants when it happened. I'm gonna put that out there. Um, I remember after that, I was just so just like, "What am I doing?" Like, why can't I throw far? Like, I need to throw farther to make this team get my world ranking up. Um, so it was a lot of stress and a lot of unknowns, and I ended up going to Austria, I think 2 weeks later. This time I had my boyfriend Garrett come with me because going to Europe for the first time was scary in my brain. Not being able to speak the language and just I've never been there before and I didn't really want to go by myself. So I went to this meet in Austria, got there the afternoon before I threw the next afternoon. Um, yeah, honestly, body wise, I was feeling really good heading into the meet. Um, I was feeling really good that morning. I got really good night of sleep. I wasn't feeling sore or tired from the flight or anything like that. So I thought I was going to throw well. I remember talking to coach, like, I feel good. I feel ready to compete. Um, yeah. So I get to the meet and it's pretty chilly and I didn't think it was going to be that cold. So I start letting these thoughts get in my head. I have never competed in Europe. I don't know what the process is like. The warm up was different than I've ever experienced. We warmed up and then we waited for like 30 minutes to be announced. So we all warmed up, got sweaty and stuff, and then we were standing waiting. This period was new to me. I've never experienced that before. Um, I still can't really understand what's going on. I'm just trying to like listen for my name to come up. And yeah, I did not throw very well. I don't remember what I threw, but I was not happy about it. And I remember after that meet, we walked back to the hotel, me and Garrett, and we had gotten pizza. This is important. We got pizza because all we ate on that trip was pizza and kebabs. We got pizza and I accidentally got corn on my pizza because I couldn't speak the language. And I think I ordered Hawaiian pizza. So it was ham, pineapple, and they put corn on it. And I was like, what the heck? And we got back to the hotel. I opened my pizza box and there's corn. And that's when I just lose it. I just start crying. I'm like, I messed up. Like, how did I not like throw well and like make this like goal happen? And after that, I like took like a short break of training. And I remember not wanting to take the break. I just wanted to keep training because it was pretty certain that I was going to make the Pan Am team. I didn't get the world ranking to go to Budapest, but I would be going to Pan Am's at the end of October, early November. So I was like, well, I want to keep training. Like, I don't want to stop, but coach was like, you need to take some time off. So I took 2 weeks off of lifting, but I was doing like general strength exercises and like running and walking. It's the middle of summer, so we were doing a lot of stuff to be active. And then whenever it was time to get back into javelin training, it was super hard for me. I kind of had this like mental low about javelin for the first time in a long time. I think might have been my first like time where I was ever like not excited to go to javelin practice. Um, and it wasn't because of like people or anything. It was because I felt like I like let myself down and there was something that I could have done to make it go better. Um, Yeah, so I was getting like a lot of anxiety before track practice for the first time in my life. And I was feeling nervous about going to Chile because this is the first time that I would represent the USA and I would travel by myself there. And all these just like unknowns were really getting to me. So I was trying to learn to let go of like my like fear of the lack of control. So I started reading like the Bible and realizing that there's a big plan and it's not just me. And I don't need to waste time and energy on fear and doubt because it's a waste of energy, especially when like God has a plan for you and he's going to help you and he's giving you all the tools you need to succeed. And I was just like honestly like changed what I was following during this time period. I like unfollowed certain accounts, followed more like I don't even know, positive accounts and really just like diving into like the Bible and figuring out like stories that helped me realize that like I don't need to worry about this stuff. Like I need to let go of that and do what I know, do what I know how to do and it'll come. It'll figure itself out. So, I make it to Chile just fine. The whole week, I thought I did a pretty good job of like not worrying about like the control and stuff. Even like coach's flight got delayed and he didn't know if he would be able to get to Chile on time to watch me compete. And I wasn't even like stressed about that. I was like, I know what I need to do. Like if you're here, amazing, I want you here. But if you're not here, I know I can still do it. And I even was having some injury things and stuff that was like making my body not feel good. I still was like, I think I can pull this together. Um, and I still feel anxious like right before the competition in Chile. But when I get on the runway, I feel good. My second throw, I ended up throwing 60.06, I think. And I ended up getting third. And that was just the cherry on the cake, like even though the meets in Canada, the meet in Austria didn't go well, that 60 meters that I threw in July wasn't just a coincidence. I was able to throw it again in November. Like, my second best throw ever was thrown in November, a day after my 23rd birthday, so it was kind of cool. Um, so yeah, it's just super crazy to see where I started, how I got into javelin. I got into javelin because it just so happened it became a high school event my freshman year of high school. So I was like, oh, I want to do another sport. I've never done another sport. Like, I've pretty much only played softball my entire life. Like, I'll try throwing javelin. So it's just kind of crazy that that's how I picked up a stick in the first place. Now it's taking me across the country to 2 different continents and 3 different countries and places that I never would have been. I would have never met all these people that I met around the world. It's just crazy all the connections I've made through javelin, so much I've learned so much through track and just seeing so many different perspectives that I wouldn't trade this route for anything. And yeah, I'm super excited to keep throwing javelin and meeting new people in different events from different countries. And yeah. So I had originally recorded this episode last week, and at that time I planned on competing in Florida with Nebraska as a Cornhusker, and then some things changed. I went to Florida, but then we ended up deciding that it was ultimately best for me to redshirt this season, focus on the Olympics, making that team, going to meets that would improve my world ranking and just work on getting that standard to be able to represent Team USA in Paris. So yeah, that's my goal for this season, and I hope to continue posting these videos on YouTube, update y'all on my training process, on the meets that I go to, and just having more fun conversations with people who are different and helping people learn from mistakes that people have made, and also learn from successes and what has made them win in their journey. So like, subscribe, share, do whatever you do till you do videos, and I'll see you next time.